you know, over on welderskills.com, I've got, as of right now, 90 episodes of this 5-Minute Friday. And basically what that is join me on my ride home from work. I talked about a few different things, answered questions, talk about whatever comes to my mind during the week, and just kind of general chat for 5 to 10 minutes every single Friday. And because I've got so many of those over on welderskills.com, I thought it would be kind of fun to post some of them on YouTube starting from episode 1 and see if you'd be interested in joining us over on welderskills.com. Now, I'm not going to be posting any of my welding videos here on YouTube, but I figured with the 5-Minute Friday, there's so many episodes on Welder Skills, why not post them here on YouTube also? Now, I'm not going to be posting the new ones here on YouTube. That's only for the Welder Skills members, which you can be a part of. If you go to welderskills.com and join up, if you use code CRUMMY25, you'll get 25% off your first 3 months. So if you like what you see with this 5-Minute Friday, there's a whole bunch more of them every single Friday. There'll be a new one coming up, so you'll probably never catch up with them. There's several other instructors on Welder Skills. We're really trying to build a great community over there, and would really like it if you came over and joined up, or even just come over and try the free trial. So hope you like this. This is episode 1 of my 5-Minute Friday vlog series. All right. Switch out of the work hat to, I guess, a house hat. Let's go home. You ever have those days at work where there's really nothing to do and they won't let you go home? So you just kind of try to look busy for 10 hours. It's exhausting. But we're done. We're ready to go. We're going home, and let's start a 5-Minute Friday. Let's put 5 minutes on the clock and answer the first 5-Minute Friday question. This one, I don't know. I just figured I would answer this question on its own. Being that this is the first one, I thought maybe I'll go into a little detail of how I got into welding. In all honesty, I was about 12 or 13 years old, and I was pretty big into model trains, and I had a group of friends that were a little bit older than me, and they were teenagers. One was old enough to drive, and we went to across the bay into Tampa. There's a big rail yard over there, and in the rail yard they had a repair shop, and I saw those guys in there, you know, just cutting torches going, and probably plasma cutters going, and sparks flying all over the place, and guys welding, and they're coming out on their break, and just covered head to toe in leather and stuff like that. And at the time I was like, man, that looks cool. I want to be a welder. And then years later, my senior year of high school, I was dating this girl, and her father was a superintendent for a construction company, and I mentioned to him that I wanted to be a welder because I still had it in my mind that I was going to be a welder. And he looked at me, and he's kind of like a little grimace on his face, and he was thinking, or he told me, he said, "You sure you want to do that? Because if you go down that path of being a welder, you're going to do that for the rest of your life. Are you okay with that?" You know, still had never struck an arc or anything. I said, "Yeah, I am. I'm okay with that." And because I, at the time, thought it was cool. Still think it's cool. So he was right. And so he set up. I had graduated high school at this point. He set up 3 different interviews, basically, but they were just come in and see the shop type of thing. It wasn't like an actual interview. So we went to one shop that was an aluminum handrail shop, and they also did some structural steel, but mostly it was aluminum handrail work and other really high-end aluminum stuff. And then we went to a structural steel place that was what you would normally think of as a small, mediums to small size structural steel company. And it was, quite a bit dirtier, quite a bit darker, quite a bit just nastier, I guess would be a good term. And then we went to an actual job site, which I thought was kind of funny because we just showed up on this job and there was a ladder going up to the roof. So him being a superintendent, he became my father-in-law at the time, and he just walks right up the ladder, and he's like, "Come on, let's go. We're gonna go talk to someone up here." And I was like, okay. We're just on this random job site, walking up a random ladder. All right. So we go up there, and there's this guy from Canada, and he's stick welding on these beams up on this roof. He explained who he was, and my father-in-law explained who he was, and he said that, I'm just showing him, I'm showing my son-in-law here the welding trade. He wants to get into it, and we talked with that guy for a little while. He was actually a retired welder up from Canada, and he'd come down to Florida and would work summers from time to time and winters from time to time, just for some extra money, I guess. So talked with that guy for a little while, and then we left. We got back in my father-in-law's truck, and he's like, "All right, I just showed you from heaven to hell in this industry. Now you pick where you want to go, and I'll do my best to get you in wherever it is you want to go." So he was definitely leading me towards the aluminum handrail shop, because they were one of the best in the area, the best quality work, and best and most likely to be the best place to work. I said best a lot in that. But so I picked that one, which was Custom Metal Specialties in Pinellas Park, Florida, and went down there. They said, "Here, show up on this date, this time, on a Monday morning at 7 o'clock or whatever. Show up." I said, "Okay, I'll be there." And had my little toolbox in the back of my car, and I went in. The owner of the company, he told me I needed to go talk to the receptionist. So went up to her office, and she basically, I handed her my resume and all this stuff, and she said, "Okay, well, we'll let you know and give you a call." I was like, "All right. So should I leave then?" She's like, "Yeah, we'll let you know. We'll give you a call." Okay. So I got in the car and I left. I went home. I was like really confused. Like I thought I had the job, but I guess not. And I drove home, and it was a fairly long drive. I drove home, and my mom, I was living at home at the time. I should back up a little bit. We weren't married at the time. He wasn't my father-in-law at the time, but he became my father-in-law, and then ex-father-in-law. But I was living at my parents' house at the time. Got home, and as soon as I got into the driveway, my mother opens up the door, and she's just pointing and going, "Go back, just go back. They called." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "You weren't supposed to leave. Just go back." And I'm like, "All right." So I drive all the way back down there. I'm like, "This is a really interesting first day into this industry." And I get there, and everyone's like, "Where'd you go?" And I'm like, "She told me to leave." And she was like, "I thought you were a potential new hire. I didn't know you were supposed to be actually hired on." So that was really my first day in the welding industry. And you know, I started out there and I said I want to learn how to weld, and they handed me a grinder and I said, okay, show me how to use this thing. We went out and I ground on some beams that had been flame cut, ground them to nice and smooth, and then drilled some holes on the side of them in the web and everything with a mag drill, and then just started grinding on aluminum handrails and watching whenever I could, whenever I had a moment to stop and watch all the other welders. And I was able to get a helmet from one of the supervisors. He gave me one of his old hoods, and I still have that old Jackson hood today, and I'll never get rid of it. And I suggest that to you if you're getting in the industry. If you get your first hood, keep it. And it'll be sentimental after a while. But over time, after being there for about 6 months or so, I asked if I could, you know, start welding on my lunch breaks, just MIG welding, and I started MIG welding a little bit here and there, and then after I thought it looked pretty good, I showed it to my supervisor, and he said, yeah, that looks good, you know, you did that? And he said, yeah. It's like, all right. He gave me a print. He said, here you go, build this. And I said, okay. And it was just a gate, pretty simple gate. And I went ahead and fabricated it all up and made it, and he checked it after it was all done, and he's like, all right, you're a welder. So I moved up from being a grinder to a welder just like that, and never looked back. So in a nutshell, that's basically how I got into the industry. So with that being the very first 5-Minute Friday, hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you found it interesting and maybe similar to your story. If you have any questions or things you'd like me to talk about on my way home, let me know. Shoot me a DM on Instagram or leave a comment here on Welder Skills. I might start a thread over in the forum section on the online page of Welder Skills. Be sure to be a part of that forum. I know that that's going to be growing, and there's going to be a lot of good information over there for everybody. So leave your questions wherever, and I will try to get to them as soon as I possibly can. So really appreciate everybody being here on welderskills.com, and we're going to have some fun. So I think that's a wrap for the first 5-Minute Friday.